You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Knowledge. It isn't free. You gotta pay attention.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
Dynasty in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Often imitated, never duplicated. Ciao tutti, everybody. We are back with the very first 2025 episode of Saratoga Saturday. Now, before we get started, apologies to everybody. The schedule's been a little messed up. We had no Sunday morning coffee this week. We had no short bet play. I was sick. I had to bail on Geo last week for his show with the Stephen Foster and just crazy schedules. But Saratoga Saturday, we're going to make up for all of that. We got a special announcement we're going to start with. We're going to do some of the Saratoga Saturdays live on Thursdays like we did last year. Most of them are going to be Geo and me or Geo and I. But we will get Big Race Jim on some of them. His schedule is a little bit crazy this year. So, it's scheduling. It's not that we don't love you guys. It's not that we don't, and gals. It's not that we don't appreciate you. Just a lot going on, a lot of scheduling. Then I got sick and just, it's like one thing after another. But here, let me just give you the announcement first. All right. The Thorograph Numbers and Patterns shows have been some of the most popular shows on Past the Wire TV and have actually breached over to other channels and just gotten more people involved and subscribing. So we're going to take that to a new level. We're going to have what I'm going to call a Past the Wire Thorograph Race of the Week. And you're going to be able to go to pastthewire.com, our website, which I hope most of you know by now. We have a website too, not just a YouTube channel. But you go to the website, there's going to be Thorograph ads all over the place. You'll be able to find them. Okay, on the Past the Wire TV page where all our videos wind up, right there, you'll see Thorograph. Boom. You click on it. You enter your email. You get an email right away, which allows you to download the race of the week, the Past the Wire Thorograph race of the week, free. You get the sheets for nothing. You just go to our website, you click the link, you get an email, you download them, and you'll be able to have the sheets that we are talking about. We're starting this week. We're going over, Geo and I are deep diving the Belmont Oaks. We're going to start with that race. We're going to do our deep dive, but we're going to add a bonus. I'm going to give you the Thorograph numbers and patterns for that particular race. Now, most of you are just learning about this now, so I understand you won't have the sheets in front of you. But when we hang up, go to Past the Wire. When we finish, wrap up, go to pastthewire.com. Bang, you can download the sheets for the Belmont Oaks, and you will kind of know what we were talking about. Now, like I said, we're going to take it to another level. So we're not only going to do Thorograph race previews, sometimes we're going to go back and look at the sheets afterwards and see, okay, what did we miss? What did we garner that was great? What did we see that we may want to look for going forward? This game ain't getting any easier. Thorograph is a great tool. When I played professionally for a living, the Thorograph was something that I wouldn't leave. It's like leaving your house without the cell phone, going to the track without Thorograph. So, great tool, great opportunity to get those races, get more familiar with Thorograph. If you get into it, you're going to want to buy them, and you're going to want to, get them for a lot more races because you're going to see the value that there is there, and we're going to help you do that. So, without further ado, I'm talking too much. Geo, always great to see you. Hope all is well.
Yeah, John.
I know you're excited.
I'm always excited. I've been capping like a madman all week for this holiday extravaganza at Saratoga. I'm glad we're covering these three big races. I'm also happy that you're feeling better, and we got to get the summer rolling. And a lot of people. One thing I thought was, something we had to get rid of finally, and it didn't yet. It's still Belmont at Saratoga for this weekend. And finally, we'll exhaust that. In 2 weeks, we'll have the Toga opening, and we'll go forward. But I'm delighted to be here with you. I'm excited with these three handicaps. And let's get going, man.
All right.
So everybody knows one thing, because John wants to do, we're doing race 11, the Belmont Oaks, for the fillies, which is the second day, which is Saturday, not tomorrow. So this is Saturday, race 11 at Saratoga, the Belmont Oaks.
So what we'll do is, how we'll do it, we'll go through the horses like we normally do, and then when we're done, I'll go back and talk about the Thorograph numbers and patterns real quick and run through it that way. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, and right after John does his thoroughbred, the Thorograph for this race, I'll also finish with my precise order. But this is a short field of 7 horses. We're going to deep dive each of these 3 races.
Okay. I'll start with warming. I respect Graham Motion. I respect when he comes to Saratoga to run. Lightly raised filly, probably has some upside to her, but I don't think she's quite as good as these at this particular moment. I would say she'd be a surprise if she wins. She did improve when she stretched out. So, I think, she will appreciate even a little bit more distance that she'll get here. She'll go from 1 mile and a 16th to 1 mile and an 1/8. But there's a couple of others I think are better and faster than her.
Okay, John, I agree with some, but I'm going to add some additional points. I like that Franco, who knows the turf course at Saratoga very well, is back on her. She only ran once as a juvenile. I, too, respect Graham Motion as well. She is stepping up. I'll tell you one thing I have to add as the favorite on the last. That was a visually impressive race when I didn't think she had a shot, but, The form said she surged, and she really closed fabulously in that race. But I agree as well. Even though she's a developing filly, and I'm going to use her in my tail end superfecta, I just think it's too much of an ask to emerge victorious in this race, strictly for superfecta and to watch the one.
Another knock. She does come off Lasix, so that's for some.
Very good point. A very good point, Shane.
Opulent Restraint. What do you think of her?
All right, I'll lead off with Restraint here. So I had to part ways with one of the horses who I thought had a lot of talent, but I don't think is a good fit for this race. And that's what I'm going to do with this number 2. I like that Rosario's up for Chad. It's interesting. This horse is definitely very likely to be a pace factor, probably on the lead, on the lead or second to Totally Justify early. The horse, this filly hasn't run since the Memories of Silver Stakes, now stretching out. It's a nice filly, but my trained eyes saw, when I watched all her races, I just think she's a little underdeveloped. So I'd be surprised if she could win a race of this magnitude. So this is one of the horses, grudgingly, I'm going to leave off my ticket because I think she has to develop more.
Now, it's interesting because you pointed something out that you're looking at as a negative, and I'm looking at it as a positive. And I'll tell you what it is. And it's interesting, and we'll see who turns out to be right. You mentioned that she's a little underdeveloped and she's, kind of still learning the game. And I agree. And then you mentioned that she's been off since April. So I'm thinking, because it's Chad Brown and because he points for Saratoga, maybe she's grown up a little bit more. And maybe she's a little bit better now than she was in April, because Chad does point for this meet. She's extremely well bred, and speed is dangerous. And I had her as one of the 3 horses I thought can possibly upset. We got an odds-on horse that we're going to get to. Nitrogen is a 3 to 5, maybe a 1 to 2 shot here, and probably deservedly so. But I thought there were 3 horses that could possibly upset Nitrogen. And she, because of the possible development and Chad pointing for Saratoga, which we know he does, and her being probably on the lead, like you said, speed's dangerous. I got her marked as, I don't love her. I'm not running to the window to bet her, but I think she's dangerous, if that makes sense.
That's a fair thought. And we're going to get to Chad's other horse in the race. Like I said, I think this is a filly that's going to develop nicely. I just have to watch and see more. And if I had to shorten this field a little, I was going to say I can't use the 2. But points, you made some real solid points, John, with this gal.
Moving on, Totally Justified. I'll take her, and I guess I deserve to take her because I made a really nice bet on her last time. And she broke my heart. I was counting the money at the 8th pole at 4.5 to 1. I thought she was home. I thought Saez rode her perfect. I thought he moved at the right time. I thought he opened up, and I thought the money was mine. I really did. I thought beautiful, correct call, and just didn't work out. Horse racing, but that said. Now she's 3rd off a layoff. I loved her progression at 2. I thought she had a very rough trip in the Breeders' Cup. I make an excuse for the first race back in Keeneland. Needed the race when she lost to Nitrogen. She was close to Nitrogen in the Breeders' Cup. Last time out, maybe she wasn't as fit as she's going to be this time, 3rd off the layoff. She's another one that I think is very dangerous. And in my opinion, and I was torn between a horse we'll get to later, but she's probably, in my opinion, by a narrow margin, the most likely or most possible upsetter to Nitrogen.
Wow, interesting, John. I got more to add on this gal.
Really good filly. I really do. I think she's got a lot of ability.
All right, this is what I uncovered about her. I too feel she's very talented. I love when Sayaz is making a second mount on a horse, whether it's a colt or a filly, whether he's sprinting or going, a big distance. In this case, of course, grade 1, 9 furlongs on the lawn. But, and the race that she ran, you could basically put a line through it at the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, because look at those beautiful fillies that she faced. I mean, Lake Victoria was racing better than anybody that year. And, of course, we're going to get to Mayday Ready, who I like a lot here, and Nitrogen. So
look at the trouble she had in that race, though. She had a lot of trouble to them.
Yes. That's what I said. I'm putting a line through that race. She deserved better of an outcome that day at a big number. I like that she has that race over Saratoga, and she won it. She has a win over the lawn at Saratoga, granted in less of company. Horse is developing nice, but how I land in the race, even though I'm a big fan, as always, of Sayaz, and I like the fact that he's on her the second time. I don't like her on the win end, but I'm going to use her in my triples and my supers, because I'd be shocked if she didn't run a competitive race here.
What'd you think of Virgin Colada?
Okay, Virgin Colada. Now, this is Chad's horse, just like the 3 struck a chord with you, totally justified. Virgin Colada is a filly that I feel is peaking, or maybe in a position to run her career best. She's got the 2 races over the lawn at Saratoga, second race at 3. You're picking up Irad. I know Pratt is coming off her, but whenever you lose Pratt, you gain Irad. And I just had this vision of Irad putting her in a great position to, in a clear lane, sitting off the speed, not too far back. And I just think the horse is going to run a strong race, probably a career best. She's going to need to. But here's where I trust Chad Brown in this race, because picking up Irad, she's 4 for 5 on the board overall, maturing, developed. Now she's 3 years old, second race at 3, like I said. I'd be very surprised if she was dull, and you may get a bonus in value at the window. She's not my top choice. I like 2 horses over her in this race, but she's my 3rd choice, and I have to make a business decision whether I'm going to use her in my multiples going forward.
Okay, Fionn. Oh no, I didn't talk about Virgin Colada, did I?
Yeah, you got to go to Virgin Colada. Your thoughts?
All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. Totally justified. Beat her on the square at Saratoga in the PG Johnson last year. Her Breeders' Cup was also a throwout, but I thought she could have won the Miss Grillo. I thought that Opulent Restraint ran better than her last time out when they both needed the race. And I thought that she was the lesser of the 2 Chad horses. I didn't like her losing Pratt. No knock on getting Irad. I get it, but when Pratt bails off like that, not the best of signs, in my opinion. She has run well at Saratoga, but again, totally justified beater. I like the other Chad better than her. I don't think that this is going to be an extremely fast-paced race, and I've got her probably a little further back than you have her. I've got her sitting, 6, 7, 8 lengths off the pace, and I'm not sure that's where the winner's going to come from in this race. So she was a pass for me.
All right, fair enough.
Fionn, that's where Pratt winds up. Brad Cox, always dangerous, 4 for 6. It's funny. She beat Totally Justified. She beat me out of that bet last time out. Her race to Nitrogen in the Appalachian wasn't really bad. Loves to win, but she kind of has a cut below look to me against these for some reason. I can't really put my finger on it. On paper she fits, but she just, for me, against these, doesn't quite pass the smell test.
That's pretty cool, John, because for different reasons, I felt the same way. Obviously, Pratt going over for Brad Cox, riding this horse, who obviously she's had a nose for the wire, 6 for 6 on the board on the turf, and 4 wins. But when you watch those races, and if you just, there was good energy, I just felt like there should have been a wow race. And even though she won 3 out of the last 4, and I liked her last race, I really did. I liked it. I just don't understand why Cox has Pratt up on instead of going with his main guy who comes off a win. This is great look. Like I said, Pratt is elite. We all know what he brings to the table. But I feel the same way. I think there's 3 other gals in this race who just have that grade 1 upside appeal to them. We know one of them for sure who's going to be the odds-on favorite, but I have another who we're going to get to very briefly right now. So I'm going to pass on Pratt and Fionn myself.
Okay.
Can I lead with Mayday Ready?
Yeah, no, I know you like her a lot. You liked her when they took that race off the turf that day. I remember you liked her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Go ahead.
But I'm going to add to her appeal here. First things first, I love the way this filly raced as a juvenile. I knew, based on all those juvenile races, I thought we went off screen for a second. How she looked in all those races, I knew going forward to a 3-year-old campaign, she was going to be a horse to reckon with. I put a line through the race at Japan. Obviously that was a spin of the bottle, if you will. I don't really like that they brought that horse over to Japan, but they took a shot. She took in some money, and I made it like it doesn't exist. Another travel experience. But then that day, in early June, that race was taken off the turf in the slot. I still think she was primed. And now I'm thinking they raced her then to keep her campaign moving forward. Now, Nitrogen blew them off, just dominated that day. It's a 3-horse field, and they didn't use this gal up. So now Frankie Dettori's back. This is her type of race because I saw the potential all along as a juvenile. Grade 1, 9 furlongs. Because of the Chad horses, this filly could fall under the radar here. I just think there's an abundance of talent, and she's got one horse to beat, and that's Nitrogen. And I feel it in my bones. Top choice. I'm probably not going to single her because of the body of work that Nitrogen have, and we're going to get into her. But I really feel that the Japan race is a pass, and that race, they let her go in the slop to keep her campaign moving forward because it was following the Japan race. And I think she runs a big race on Saturday, excuse me.
I agree. I think she's, her and Totally Justified, I think both have a pretty good chance of upsetting Nitrogen. And that was when I said earlier that I was torn between 2. This was the other one. she was dead game in the debut race at Saratoga. Won first time out going a mile and a 16th. Went to the tough Kentucky Downs track.
Yeah.
Able to win over there. Went to Keeneland, grade 2. Was able to win over there. Ran a bang up second. Finishing very, very good to Lake Victoria. If you watch the replay, she was running very good at the end, much better than a lot of people thought she would be. And I think in that race, she proved that she was for real and very high quality. And I agree. I throw the Japan race out. Who knows what happened? They throw the slop race out. That was a stretch your legs workout. I think she's ready to run a big one. And I think dangerous. Agree.
Yeah, and one thing I marked on here, because of the presence of the Chad horses and even the one who comes off a very impressive race, I'm thinking I may get 5 or 6 to 1 with this horse.
Maybe even more.
Oh,
Nitrogen. You're not going to get 5 or 6 to 1 on her. She's going to be 3 to 5, maybe 1 to 2, maybe even 2 to 5. And I'll tell you this. You look on paper and you could see why. She's 5 for 8. She's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, all over the place. Even when they took it off the turf at the slop at Saratoga, she drew away and won. She sits close in a race that, in my opinion, does not have a lot of speed. So she's going to get the jump on horses like Chad's horse and like Mayday Ready. So they're going to have to, come get her, turn her for home. She's the one that's going to get the jump. That's a little bit of the reason why I leaned to Totally Justified as the one that could maybe upset them, because I think she'll also be one of the ones that gets the jump. So the best argument, in my opinion, against Nitrogen is, like I always say on these shows, they're not machines. They don't do the same thing every time. Very few bring it every single time. And I think maybe, the more in a row they win, the more likely they are to throw in that dud or just get beat. But, on paper, logically, she's better and faster than these. And when we do the Thorograph numbers and patterns, which I've looked at already, she's significantly faster than most, if not all of these.
okay, John. Yeah, I'm going to add some to what you shared, but just one other additional point. Obviously, her form speaks for itself. They aren't machines. Consistently fast with her numbers on the buyer scale. To be honest with you, I didn't check the Thorographs, but buyer-wise, consistent, reliable, and faster than all of them. And one thing about Jose Ortiz, we all know he's great, but I'm thinking, especially after what he did at the Churchill meet, I think he's entered another level. I think Jose is now grouped with Irad and Pratt, in my opinion, as the 3 best riders in the country.
No argument from me.
Yeah, he's just riding with swagger and confidence. And I just think Mayday Ready is a gifted filly who, if she runs to her potential, especially developing from her juvenile years, it could be close. And that's going to be my exacta. And I'm probably going to grudgingly use both of them, but I am going to play a sizable win bet on Mayday Ready, because I don't think I'm ever going to get those odds again.
I can't argue that point.
Yeah. All right, so you now have the floor to discuss what your findings on Thorograph of this race.
Okay. And I thought it was I picked this race because I thought it was a very interesting race to do, because there's a horse that stands out. So the question becomes, do they really stand out? And how do you bet or bet against a horse that looks like they may stand out? And we'll cover it as I go through the numbers and patterns, and it won't take but a minute. But very, very, in my opinion, interesting race on the Thorograph numbers and patterns for that very reason. So with that, stay with me, and we'll roll. All right. Warming from the rail, who we talked about, Grand Motions filly. As a 2-year-old, she runs a 14, comes back, runs a 10.5, and then pairs up a 10.5. I like the paired 10s. I think that's a forward-moving pattern, especially as a lightly raced 3-year-old. Probably going to go 2-3 points forward, 8 or 7, but that's not going to be good enough to win the race. Opulent Restraint. We talked about this one being a later developing filly for Chad. 14 3/4, 14 and 10 as a 2-year-old. So nice progression. Comes back, pairs the 10 at Tampa, then goes to a 9 at Aqueduct. So you got a 10 1/4 and a 9. Going to go forward, Mike. No doubt. Probably 3-4 points, 6, 5. It's Chad with a little time off, could jump up maybe even 4 points forward. That brings it to a 4. Is that going to be enough? I'm not sure. But it could be under the right conditions. Totally justified. A little bit more to go on here. 14.5, 14.5, 13, 12, 9.5. That's as a 2-year-old. Steady progression. Love it. 3-year-old. 11.5. Bang. 7. Nice jump forward. If she makes another jump forward like that, 4 or 5 points, she's in the 2 range, 3 range. Very dangerous at that point. Then she's as fast as anybody in the race. Virgin Colada. 15, 12.5, 12.5, 10.25. Nice progression, comes back 10 1/4 as a 3-year-old. Going the right way, just not going the right way as good as Opulent Restraint or Totally Justified, in my opinion, but going the right way. Fionn, who we kind of agreed looks good, but something about her, we both kind of didn't feel she passed the smell test. On the numbers, she looks good. 14 1/4, 12.5 at 2. As a 3-year-old, 10.5, 10 3/4, 9 3/4, 7 1/4. Steadily going forward. But I see her 6, 5 if she goes forward again. She's got 4 races. Maybe she's kind of leveling off too. So I'm not as sure about her going forward as some of the others, which is another reason why I kind of passed on her. Mayday Ready, a horse that we both like a lot on the racing form and on the PPs, but do we like her on the numbers? 12, 10 3/4, 10 1/4, 7 3/4 in the Breeders' Cup, 12.5 in that Japan race. Comes back 17 1/4 in the slop race at Saratoga. She's got that 7 3/4 in the Breeders' Cup race. If she goes past that by a couple of points, she can do it. 3-4 points past that puts her right in contention. So I would say if we could throw out the Japan race, which I think we can, and we could throw out that sloppy race at Saratoga on the dirt. This is a grass filly. We know that. I think with a forward move that we both expect from 2 to 3, Contender. Here's the problem. Nitrogen. 11, 9, 8 1/4. Comes back. 9.5, 7, 7, 2. 2 stands out. But let's look at it this way. More likely to run closer to the 7 because the 2 was in the slop. Runaway win in the slop, out in the middle of the track, ground loss number, probably an inflated number because of the circumstances, and she was on the racetrack. So I'm going to say...
And a 3-horse field.
Right, and a 3-horse field. she's kind of steady with those 7s. You got horses in here that can go past that. I think upset possibility. Graveyard of favorites, Saratoga. To me, the patterns and numbers tell me vulnerable. Horses going forward where she's kind of staying the same. I think they beat her on Saturday based on the Thorograph numbers and patterns. And I think we pinpointed the ones that are most likely to beat her. So with that,
Well, I promised at the end.
And you can get the sheets for this race yourself.
Yeah, and just to conclude the race, as I told everyone, John was done with the Thorograph. I'm going to give you my precise order for those that follow the depths of me for superfactors and all. I'm going 6, 7, 4, 3, 1. So I'm playing a 6-7 exacta, 6-4 exacta in case nitrogen doesn't fire, and I'm playing 6-7-4 and 6-7-3 triples, and I'm using the 1 in my saver superfactor. 6-7-4-3-1.
Okay. Obviously, Geo and I bet very differently, but we handicap similarly, is where we do a lot of homework.
Yeah.
Moving right along. I'm looking for the Suburban, right?
No, because they're in order of the double. This is the 4th of July. Tomorrow, folks, Saratoga's 9th is the Belmont Derby, followed by the Suburban.
Okay, so we're going to the Belmont Derby. 1 1/8 on the grass at the Spa on the 4th of July.
Yeah, a beautiful 8-horse field. In my opinion, many twists and turns and angles to embrace and to cap. And I come up with a pretty strong winner here and a pretty confident play in my exotics. But you want to lead off on the 1 tank, or you want me to start it?
You can start.
Okay. So like John mentioned, this is grade 1, $750,000, 9 furlongs on the lawn. The 1 tank is Luis Saez coming in from Florida. So there's a level of aggressiveness there. The horse being shipped in from Florida obviously steps up. You do get Saez coming back on this horse. Nice, strong-looking colt, and he's improving. 3 straight wins is always something that you pay attention to. But for a horse that's seeking his 4th straight, even with the aggressive nature coming in from Gulfstream in Florida, and the horse runs really well on the lawn, I see this guy on the lead. I know what Louise is going to do. He's going to say, you know what? Let me get out. Let me be in the lead comfortably around the first turn, and let's see what I got. I just don't think the horse is going to have enough to take it all away. But I do expect this horse to have a rather comfortable lead and not have enough against this caliber in the field to out-finish everybody. So only going to use tank in my deeper superfactors, being passed by most.
You know, I would just be talking to him my own voice because I've got nothing to add. I think he's the speed from the rail. Speed's always dangerous, but I agree with you. I think he's probably not going to be good enough to beat these at 1 1/8. And I'll just kind of co-sign what you just said. Early adopter. You got Chad Brown, Jose Ortiz, 12-1 on a morning line. That always gets my attention. You got a horse who's 1 for 1 at Saratoga. That always gets my attention. Been a little disappointing this year. Only 1 win and an allowance at Keeneland. Lost the stake at Tampa. Lost the other stake at Churchill Downs. But it is Chad. Is 1 for 1 with Jose. Is 1 for 1 with at Saratoga. I'm not in love with him. Not anywhere near my top choice. Not going to use him, but if he won, would not shock me.
All right, that's fair enough. I mean, I think we're on the same page here. Even though I don't think, I would be pretty surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if this colt pulled off the upset. But the way I spoke about Jose Ortiz and the confidence and the swagger he has, and now he's up for Chad, and it's his second time, and he happens to be the jockey who won on him 2 back. But in his last, when he took the money, and if you watch that race, I couldn't find an excuse. That horse was a disappointment in that Churchill Downs, especially with Pratt on him. I just didn't think he had anything in that race to now come here and go for a grade 1 purse. I think the morning line is accurate. Who does the morning line for Naira? Is it David Aragorda, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I think it is.
That's telling too. So if I was going to pass on one of the horses in this field, especially because I like 2 horses we haven't gotten to yet, I'm not using the 2 early adapter, but has a future, but I'm not using the horse.
Okay, you're up, Luther.
All right, now Luther, on the other side of the coin, I saw some things. Now, John, I'm going to ask you, because I don't know too much about this jockey who comes over for his USA debut. You know, I call it like it is. I know a lot about a lot of jockeys, but this jockey, I don't know too much about what his talents are. But let me talk about the horse first, and then we'll talk about the jockey that stays. I looked at Luther as a contender in this race because overall, for a horse making his USA debut, I liked the races he ran over in France. There was some strong company there. I mean, 2 back, Henri Matus, that horse is a strong Ascot, grade 1, group 1 type of horse.
Breeders' Cup winner.
Breeders' Cup winner. There you go. And this horse was very solid as a juvenile. So when a horse is this solid as a juvenile overseas, I'm thinking, and the pedigree's there, the horse is bred wonderfully for a race like this, grade 1 on the long, going 9 furlongs, will definitely need a trip, training well, I'm assuming. So I looked at this horse as a contender in the field, ends up being my 3rd choice. I like 2 others significantly more, but this horse is definitely going to be used in my triple, and I got to make a business decision on whether I'm going to go 3 deep in my multiples, but a lot has to do with what you share with me about Schumacher, because I don't know anything about him.
Schumacher can ride. He was riding when Frankie came here. He was riding a lot for Judmont and John Gosden. He now lost that seat to what's his name, Colin Hayes, or I think Colin Hayes, that kid from Ireland who's also a very good rider. But no, he can ride. He can ride. I have no reservations about how he rides. He rides in some big races over there. He's ridden some good horses. He's
right.
fine. He's fine. No knocks on him at all.
So I'm going to conclude, and then I want your thoughts on Luther. We'll move to you, but I'm going to conclude to say I believe, based on raw talent and the company he kept and how he races a juvenile, he's a contender in this field. But I like 2 others more.
Well, I agree. I think he's a good contender. He's kept very good company over there. He's held his own in some really nice races against some really good horses. I got no real knock on him whatsoever. Definitely a contender. Not my top choice, but that's certainly a horse that warrants his share of respect in here. Definitely.
Okay, cool. Can I lead with New Century?
Sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I like New Century a lot here. Because I plan on playing a big pick 5, I don't know if I'm going to have the stones to single. But here's why I like this horse as a lead on a win end, on an exacta lead, a superfecta key, and my triple key. First of all, speaking of riders that were lights out, Oslin Murphy at Royal Ascot was just in a zone. He's not only a very talented rider, but he was riding great at Royal Ascot. So now he comes in. He's ridden this horse before most of the time. He's the regular rider. They went with Irad last time, but third race at 3. If the horse gets the trip, because he's had some tough trips. When I was watching replays with this guy, I was saying, my God, over different turf courses, he really had challenged trips. So if he gets a clean trip this time, and I trust Oslin Murphy, who's riding lights out at Ascot, working on a synthetic, Saratoga debut, a world of talent, grade 1 winner over at Woodbine. And if you watch that race, visually impressive at Woodbine, going a mile, made for the distance. I have no reservations about the distance. Clean path. I see this horse to be full running a stretch. Top choice. My lead. I just got to make a decision whether I'm going to go 2 or 3 deep in my bigger pick 5.
Okay, we are on the same page. I lean heavily to New Century in here myself. I think he's going to be really tough to beat. If you go back and you watch his race at Woodbine in the grade 1 summer, this horse was motoring down the outside of that turf course with just a really, really nice turn of foot. Has had some, less than ideal trips after that. Ran with Field of Gold. We saw what he did over there. I thought he was dangerous last time in the Zulu Kingdom race that I liked. That the Phil D'Amato horse, but he was way far back that day on a wet turf course. That's a lot. They got it listed as good. I would say you'd be lucky to call it good, but very, very, very dangerous. I think he's sitting on a really big race, and I'm same page, top choice, no question.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add, I said that he was working exclusively on a synthetic at Turfway, and I thought that was very interesting for Brandon Walsh.
I love that. We've been for months about horses coming off the Turfway synthetic and winning.
Yep. And you got to trust Brandon Walsh. All right. I kind of feel good about that, John. Remember, you and I, grade 1, landing on the same horse. Folks, I kid you not. And this is not, I'm not saying this boasting or conceit. We're in the category of 85 to 90% success over a long stretch of time, grade 1, when we land on the same horse like this.
Test score. Honest horse, shows up, runs his race every time. I just think there's a couple in here that are better than him. He's a 3rd, 4th place, at best kind of 2nd place finisher in a race like this in my book. He did run 2nd in the grade 1 at Churchill Downs on that, boggy type of turf course. He does bring it all the time, but I just think he's a couple of them in here.
All right, and you started off. Are you concluded with him?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing, folks, I wish you could see if I could put it right to the screen. One of my top things I highlighted was he is an honest colt. And you said the word, he's an honest colt. So, I agree he's honest. In that American turf at Churchill, he finished ahead of New Century. But New Century, if you just watch the race, in my opinion, was the better horse and a horse that's going to relish more distance. So yes, honest, no Saratoga. Has a race over Saratoga. It's Manny Franco, but I just think a cut below. I'm going to use test score in my deeper exotics. It's not the second horse who I like underneath, like I mentioned earlier in my analysis. And we're going to get to the horse I like second under New Century, but only for deeper exotics for me, test score.
Okay. Final gambit.
You want me to lead?
Absolutely.
Okay, final gambit. Now, a lot of folks is going to know this gray colt 3-year-old because of his presence in the Triple Crown. And because it's Flavien Prat for Brad Cox, inevitably, the number one thing I thought of, and then I saw the morning line at 5-2, I felt like this horse was going to be an underlay. The horse is going to be taking in a lot of money that he really shouldn't be getting in this field. I do agree. I feel the turf is what this horse needs. Ran in the slot, was on the fast track, over at Turfway on a synthetic. So the race in the Kentucky Derby and the race at Turfway Park, the Grade 3, which put him into the Kentucky Derby, displayed some talent. I feel this horse has underlay written all over him. If I'm going to use Final Gambit, it'll be in a superfecta wager under my top 3, but that's as far as I go with this horse.
Interesting. He was a pretty hyped horse in the Kentucky Derby. I didn't think he really had a good shot to win the Matt win. I didn't think that was a good spot for him. Now he's moving to the turf. I guess they're looking for a home for him, hoping it's grass. His first grass race was okay at Churchill Downs. Wasn't great. Wasn't bad. He did take up in the stretch. He could have a turn of foot good enough to win here. He gets Pratt. It is Brad Cox. And he could wind up a turf horse. There's no question about it. And if he is, he's dangerous. He's for me, he's the one I fear most with New Century.
And what are your thoughts on me feeling that he's going to be overbet? You think he's going to be bet accurately, or for what he's shown on the lawn?
I think he's going to take a ton of money. I think he's going to probably be the favorite, and he's going to take a lot of money with Pratt. He was hyped up in the Derby.
Listen, but what I love about that is I feel he's going to do a nice job on keeping New Century's price at a fair number.
I agree.
The money he's going to take in. Yeah.
World Beater, kind of on a roll. Broke his maiden, come right back after breaking his maiden, won the Audubon. I think these are a little better than the two than what he faced in those last 2 races. He's going to have to prove to me that he can roll 3 in a row against New Century and Final Gambit and maybe 1 or 2 others in here.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same page. I'll add that Torres is back up. I like Raleigh Mott, Belmont's son. 2 for 2 at the distance, methodically improving. But this jump to a grade 1 versus this company after taking 5 races to graduate, I need to see more. So I wouldn't be confident playing World Beater.
Flying Mohawk.
Oh, right, I'm going to lead with Flying Mohawk because this is the horse who's not only going to be my big exacta play on the New Century. I really like the 4-8 exacta, folks, and the 4-8-3 triple. I highlighted here in my handicap. But here's why I feel Flying Mohawk's going to be the light. If there's going to be an upset at the New Century, I like this horse to be that possibility, even though I like New Century a considerable amount more. Blinkers go on for Whit Beckman. You got Frankie Dettori up, coming back on a horse. He had some time with him being familiar, going back to when he was a juvenile. First race since May. I'm not overly concerned with the layoff. The same path that Final Gambit took, the race at Turfway, and then the Kentucky Derby. You know, it's not the best post. It's not a 12-horse field, but this 8 post isn't the best for what this horse is going to need to do. But I'm trusting Frankie. You know, the debut at Saratoga was in his first start as a maiden, and they were confident enough going on the lawn, going a mile and a 16th. I think that's something you got to put into consideration. Debuting mile and a 16th at Saratoga. Well-traveled, all 7 races. Physically developing, in my opinion. I like the horses' races on the turf. So they mixed them up, put them in different positions. I think this horse is a genuine turf horse. With the blinkers, with a good ride, I'm feeling pretty confident that he'll make his presence felt in a stretch, and that's my key play underneath New Century to fill the exacta with Flying Mohawk.
Same page. I'm just a little bit torn between Final Gambit and him as being the horse behind New Century. But I definitely like him. I like the blinkers on. I like him getting back on the grass. No knocks whatsoever. If I had to force myself to find something negative to say, I'd say, well, you know, he didn't run all that well at Saratoga first time out. But again, that was his debut race going long. It was a while back, and he seems to have gotten a lot better since then. So I agree. I think Flying Mohawk is certainly dangerous, and a horse that is definitely capable of making a lot of noise in here.
Yeah, and one of the owners is the Philadelphia Phillies slugger, Jason Wirtz. Is that his name?
Yeah.
I remember watching an interview where he spoke about him, where he was happy he was running for the Roses. So,
all right, let's get the Suburban done quick so we can get this posted, and people got some time to watch it because the race is tomorrow.
Okay, we're just under an hour still, so yeah, we'll knock it out. Let's deep dive the Suburban. Grade 2. Pardon me. Where's the Suburban? Yeah. Grade 2, mile and a quarter on the dirt. Suburban. Didn't I used to call this the Suburban Handicap, John?
It was the Suburban Handicap. Now
okay, so once you lead off race 10 on the 4th of July tomorrow, which completes the daily double. And folks, remember, the race we just covered leads into this race. You want to cover your daily double too.
Okay, Phileas Fogg, you know, 1-for-1 at Saratoga always catches my eye, especially on the dirt track there. I love it as a horse for course. He is speed from the inside, going a mile and a quarter with Kendrick, who we know is aggressive. We know knows how to nurse those speed horses along. And there's really no world beaters in here. There's a couple of good horses, but not world beaters in here. This was certainly a fair enough claim for $62,500. Wins, you know, the Excelsior second in the Pimlico Special. I give him an outside puncher's chance if nobody goes with him.
Okay, John, cool. I got more to add, definitely. I'm using this horse, not my top choice. He's my second choice, a strong second choice. And I like the exactor in this race and the triple. But I look at this gelding as honest, dependable, gutty, 12 of 17 in the exactors, winning 8, working well, John. I love the way the horse is training, quality breezes, fast times, making his first start since the middle of May. I think Kenrick Carmouche is a jockey that's often underappreciated. He knows his way around the NYRA circuit. I think he'll be on the lead. A lot will be determined how the bottom horse gets out, the 8. But this horse has staying power. He's proven at the distance, and he seems to dig down in the stretch, even though he's on the lead. So I really feel he's going to make a presence felt throughout the race, and he may last to fill the exacta under the horse that I just couldn't get past in winning. So much respect for the one main exacta threat, and I'll be using it in my triple as well.
Okay, Disarm, go ahead.
All right, well, Disarm, those of you who are fans here of Past the Wire, you know I've always had a liking to the horse. I bet him several times. He was my Kentucky Derby horse a few years back. But now he's age 5. He's had 5 chances at Saratoga. He's also a horse that you know he's bred for the distance, the son of Gunrunner. Hasn't won at the distance, has a couple of good tries. You know, I was always waiting for him to really put it all together in a big race. And even though I think he'll run fairly well in this race, I just feel his race is at 3. And because he didn't put it all together the way I wanted to say, wow, at age 4, he needs to show me at age 5 that he could do it. So in this field, even though I always liked the horse, I just sided with others in this race. He'll be a filler for me because I'm partial to him, but I like my top 3 a lot more.
Okay. I thought he was a little dangerous too in here. Probably have him rated a little higher than you. You know, he's kind of never really got that right trip and that right setup to show his best. And I haven't given up on the fact that even at 5, at some point, it just may happen. Handles the track, has a win at Saratoga, has the back class to win. Steve Asmussen doesn't give up on him. I think one day he's going to pop up and win a big race, and I definitely think he can win a race like this on one of his better days. So I'm going to call him a contender.
All right, that's fair enough, and I do agree with you that inevitably he's going to win a big race. I just don't think it's going to be against these type of really hard-hitting older horses who are in wonderful form.
Okay, San Siro. I know you hate when I do this. Cut below.
Yeah. I'll let you conclude, but I'm going to be rather succinct too. I'm going to be.
I don't see it. If he wins, I lose.
All right. Well, I'm just going to add to give a flair to my findings, but I'll be succinct. I promise. Luis Saez for Brandon Walsh. You got to love the connections, but this is a real tough ask. I marked down the horse should be 35 to 1. It's probably going to be 25 to 1 because Louise is up, but I'm passing on San Siro here.
I know you're not passing on Locked.
Absolutely not. Can I lead with Locked?
Go right ahead.
All right. Now, I talked about who I like, Carmouche, and the one under, it's underlocked. Because I feel I make it a fair exacta because Pletcher's got two real quality horses in this race, but I couldn't get past locked here. Proven at the distance, proven at Saratoga. The last was at 1 1/16. 8.5 furlongs is not his best distance, in my opinion. I know what the horse showed me late in many races. If he runs his best, and it doesn't have to be his career best, but if he matches his best race, no doubt, he's the horse to beat in this race. You got to love and trust Jose Ortiz here. If you look at the Derby undercard race where, was a little weakened in that race, but that was Fierceness, big day, most wanted, Hall of Fame. Again, that was 1 1/16, and Fierceness is who he is. The works aren't great. Let me tell you, I keep it real. I don't like the way, I'm not saying he has to blaze and show big time blazing breezes, but I was a little sort of concerned at the times of the works. But you know what? He's just too classy here. And if he runs back to his best race, he's the horse to beat. And I couldn't get past him. I did respect Pletcher's other horse, who we're going to get to, who I'm also going to use in an underneath exacta. But I like the 4-1 exacta a lot here. And, I couldn't get past locked here because of Jose Ortiz.
Clear top choice, in my opinion. I agree. I think if he runs back to the Santa Anita handicap,
yeah.
He wins this race, no question. I think his best races are in front of him. I'm a little worried about the pace. I think the one on the lead is dangerous, and if he falls too far back or comes too wide too late, that's always a way to get beat. But Pletcher's other horse should keep it honest enough. I'm thinking so. Yeah, locked, no question, top choice.
Okay, cool. I like that because now we got two of these big races that we've agreed on, and you'll see when you get to the bottom horse, he's a horse with speed, and I believe Irad's on him, but we'll get back. But I'm trusting the one to be a controlling speed with Carmouche and lock to pass the horse late in the race.
All right, Ben Doog. Ben Doog is a horse I always thought was going to turn out better than he did. I always thought he was sitting on a big race. He did run second in this race to Krupe last year. He's come with some good efforts, but he's got a little hang in him, and I'm pretty sure somebody's going to beat him. He can get in there and maybe make a little noise and get a piece, but he just never really turned out to be as good as I thought he might be. So he's a pass on a win end for me.
You know what? And I'm going to echo the effect. A nice racehorse, 16 for 20, collecting checks, lifetime, 6 for 8 on the board at the distance. But there you go. He is sort of a hanger where he's had opportunities to run really hard late in races and dig down deep, and he didn't do it. So as much as I like and trust Belmont with conditioning, others, 3 or 4 horses are more appealing in this race than this horse.
Okay. Anna Marie, what'd you think?
All right, I'll lead with Anna Marie. I like that Ben Curtis is back up for Whit Beckman. I looked at the horse as being a horse that was slated with a lot of potential during his 3-year-old campaign, Kentucky Derby, Triple Crown Trail. Never really fulfilled things as a 3-year-old. now comes back at 4, wins at Churchill Downs, is only 1 for 4 at the distance with a placing, hasn't won at the distance, 0 for 2 at the Spa. You know, it was a nice race in his last, but I wasn't wowed by it. This is another horse that obviously needs to come from off the pace. And if you're looking for a horse that's coming off the pace, in my opinion, it's going to be locked. And if it's not locked, it's Antiquarian, who we're going to get into. And I really feel the one is going to dig in and be a horse that's going to finish well. So I couldn't use Anna Marie for all those reasons.
Okay, I agree. I think he's got way too much to do here pace-wise. When he was getting a lot of hype around the Derby, the Belmont, and the Travers, and was kind of like a wise guy horse then, I thought he was overrated then. I didn't buy into him then. I don't buy into him now. I do buy into Antiquarian. I've always thought this horse is talented. Do I think he's as good as Locked or good enough to beat Locked? No, I don't. Not right now anyway, but I do think he's a nice horse. I do think he could make some noise here. And I do think, most importantly, he gets a really good trip in this race. I think he's sitting right where you want to be, second, third, close up off the speed. I think he's the first one that goes after the horse on the rail. And I think, those are the two that are going to be fighting it out when Lock comes calling.
Yeah, you know what, John? I painted a very similar picture. I'll add that, obviously a stablemate to Lock. You got to trust Pletcher and Johnny V. Interestingly enough, if you go back to the Belmont over this track, no shame in this horse failing against the likes of Dornock, Mindframe, and Sierra Leone. His last 2 are strong races. I agree that he should sit a very advantageous, beneficial trip, developing. Could he actually run his career best? But if he ran his career best, which he'll need, to me, he's second or third. He could pass the one or just fall short because the one digs down deep. But I believe Locked, as long as there's no circumstances of a bad break or a bad trip, I think Lock passes them all in a stretch. But I like this horse. You're going to see more out of Antiquarian going forward. And I would not be shocked if it's a Locked Antiquarian Pletcher exactor either.
Okay, Awesome Aaron, the horse that beat the horse you like on the rail in the Pimlico Special and is a hell of a claim for $40,000. Do it again? I don't know. I'm not sold. Does have some pace. Can probably be, in there early, but I don't think he's as fast. I think the one from the rail is going to be faster than him, and I think he's going to have to prove to me that he can run another race like the last one that he ran against this kind of company. Not sold.
Okay. I mean, it's very important to know that IRAD's up for the first time. So IRAD gets the mount for Norm Cassie. I agree. I think the one around the first turn is going to be in better position. I think if IRAD runs and guns this horse from the 8-hole, he may do him in. So Awesome Aaron is going to need the one to have a poor break to get relaxing position around the first turn and into the first half. The buyers were impressive in his last 2, a 104 and 100, winning both. But again, every race paints a new picture, and because of the presence of Carmouche with the 1 and the class of Locked and the developing nature of Antiquarian, I couldn't come up with this horse. So my precise order is 41728. 41728.
Okay, there you have it. Saratoga Saturday, episode 1.
And folks, we appreciate, now we're assuming you've already subscribed. We appreciate that you add your thoughts in the comment field. If you've capped the race and you land on something different, let us know. And if you agree with us, let us know. And I think we're in a position to make some money here because, John, I like I said, I value your opinion probably more than many others, if any others, because I'm always going to stay with my opinion first. But when you're on the same page with me, 2 out of 3 big races, that's interesting. It really is.
It used to happen a lot more. It hasn't happened so much recently, but yeah, no, it's pretty high percentage. And remember, pastthewire.com, Thorograph, go right to the Past the Wire website. Check out any one of the Thorograph banners or squares or ads on there. Click on it. Take you right there. You'll see the box on the Thorograph homepage. Enter your email. You'll get the sheets for the Belmont Oaks. And let us know what you think about the patterns, too, in the comments. If you think that we're right in who's moving forward, who's going backwards, and if Nitrogen might be a vulnerable favorite based on the Thorograph numbers and patterns, which I think she certainly could be with those 3 7s in a row. So,
John, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I have one closing thought as well. When you're done,
I'm done.
Okay, and folks, July is a big month. So my home court here down at Jersey Shore is the Grade 1 Haskell. I will be at Haskell Day. I'm going to do a full card handicap. It's the one day during the Saratoga meet that I'm not on Saratoga races. I'm going to do a show to talk about the Saratoga Day because I'm going to do some capping. But a few weeks from now is Haskell Day, and I'm going to be doing an interesting column earlier in the week talking about great Haskell races of the past, and there'll be a special opportunity to follow me on that terrific undercard on Haskell Day at Monmouth.
All good. And then before you know it, Del Mar opens up too. So you got Saratoga by day, Del Mar by night. Doesn't get better than that.
And John, one question. Maybe you know a little more of the campaign. Who do you think is going to be the top attraction for Haskell Day? Who is it going to be? Sovereignty? Is it going to be journalism? Or is it going to be so many others underneath? You think they're going to race there?
My guess, Baeza goes there.
Baeza, interesting. Okay.
I think that the other 2 will go to Saratoga.
Rodriguez as well?
I don't know.
Okay.
But he likes that. He likes the Haskell.
Yeah,
so.
I'm looking forward. The field's going to be loaded. They have a big Philly race that day. I'm really looking forward to that day and the full season at Saratoga.
Absolutely.
So let us know. We appreciate the engagement, folks. What do you want to see on Saratoga Saturdays? You want to see John and I? Hopefully we'll have Big Race Jim on some of the days. Tell us what you want to see and what you want.
Yeah, let us know. And we'll be back for the next Saratoga Saturday.
By the way, it wouldn't be right if I didn't mention you're still going to get content from Ed and Charles Trent. We got a full staff here at Past the Wire.
Yeah, Charles does Raceland shows, really good. Ed just had he sat down with Tom Durkin. A lot of stuff going on. So all good. So we'll be back.
All right, guys, stay well and let's make some money this weekend.
Absolutely. Ciao for now.
If you ain't smooth, you ain't never going to be a smooth operator.
comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final front. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better.